Hi, welcome to Power of the Network. I'm your host, Tim Locker, Vice President of Broadband here at CBM. Today, we're going to continue our conversation with Jason Johns, Vice President of Construction for Gateway Fiber. Let's just get right back into and follow up where we left off. So what's important in your relationships? For me, honesty is critical, right? As a sales guy, obviously you want people to trust you. You're not going to sell every little trinket that comes out. You have to believe in it, and ultimately we want to help you, right? So what's important on your end of the equation?
Well, it's transparency, which is a form of honesty, right? I really believe that whoever you're dealing with, you just have to have that. Be transparent in what you're trying to accomplish, the conversations you're trying to have. Some of them are difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But that's okay. In the business world, you have to be able to have those difficult conversations and move on. But
now, do you find it's easier to have those conversations now, later in your career, maybe more mature than younger?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's understanding the impact of those conversations and how to attack it. I can remember conversations where I was on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very tactful. And you really didn't understand what they're trying to tell you. So when you have conversations that are difficult, you're really wanting to make sure that who you're speaking with understands the point, understands the
clarity.
Outcome. Yeah, and there's no there's no confusion on why. Hopefully you've been if it's an internal person, for instance, hopefully you've been coaching as a leader. You're coaching along the way,
yeah.
And so it's not a surprise if you have something like that. It gets a little more difficult when it's a vendor or it's a municipality or something like that.
Sure.
But you just move forward. You got to be professional.
So you guys are obviously expanding rapidly. We hear in the industry a lot. Good workers are hard to find. Labor shortages. Are you struggling with finding enough people to fill these new opportunities with your company?
I think we're struggling with finding the right people.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that apply for our positions, but it's important to hire the right person as well.
So struggling to find the right person, what is that right person? How does that fit your culture?
Well, I think when you're hiring, it's important not to get, wrapped around the axle of, do they have this work experience? Do they have all the, are they checking all these boxes that are typically on a job posting?
Yeah.
That's important. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's about finding that person that has the ability to learn, that has the ability to fit into what the rest of the team has already built. Fit into our culture. Fit into we got a customer first mentality. We make sure that they can communicate and they're honest people and they can grow within it. So sometimes it's I don't want to say it's less about, but it's not we don't want to overweight their job experiences or where they've been.
Well, and that experience might cause that same I've done it this way mentality. I tell my son all the time too, it's about being coachable.
Yeah.
Open your mind, be willing to learn, do new things. At no matter what level of the company you're at, whether you're starting from the ground up or you're at the top of the organization, you still have to be coachable and try to learn new things.
Yeah, and we had a situation recently where we were interviewing for a position, and that position actually went away. And there was one person that interviewed for it, and it was like, we got to have this person on our team. We'll find a place for it.
You find the right person, and we're going to put them in the right spot.
This is someone that wants to be with Gateway Fiber. This is someone that Gateway Fiber wants. So we'll find a place.
Yeah.
So we ended up hiring that person and thriving today.
Yeah, and we call that, having people on the bench. Yeah. So, every one of us within the company, whether we're on the leadership team or not, we continually keep our eyes open and we identify the right people. And so when those voids come available, then we have that bench to go to put someone into that slot. So, and you mentioned customer first mentality. The technicians really. In a company like yours, the folks that are going to the homes and dealing with your actual end user customers, do you train them? What do you do to make sure that, they have to know that they're the voice of the company? They have a lot more power with the customer than a lot of times what they want to believe. So what do you do to train those folks to really honestly take care of that customer first mentality?
Well, and our techs do a fantastic job. I mean, being Gateway employees, they understand the impacts they have when you walk into someone's home. I mean, we all have it. I mean, when someone walks into our home, right? And so they understand it, and there is a training program ongoing. You just can't train someone one time and be like, all right, you got your certificate. Yeah. It's an ongoing mentality, but it's less about. I shouldn't say it's less about training. It's you got to train them, but then the whole company has to live it. From a construction perspective, we go into these communities and we tear them up. I mean, you got drills everywhere. You got conduit. You got handholds.
Mud.
It's all over the place. And so we're honest with them. We're honest with the cities. Hey, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
And we have but those houses that we're building on are our potential customers. So even our crews are educated and trained and held accountable to making sure that they follow best practices. Yeah. They respond to issues in a timely manner. It's up and down the whole organization.
Even though you're out there making a mess of things, you still got to be respectful and cognizant and willing to.
Hey, the worst thing that as a homeowner, and just
I'm a grass guy.
Well,
you come tear up my grass. I mean, we're gonna have a talk, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot. I'm sure there's a bunch of guys out there that are that way.
Well, and we're gonna tear up your grass, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but the flip side is from a homeowner perspective, they just want to talk to someone. The worst thing you can do is ignore them. They send a complaint in. We have a great way. There's all sorts of ways that you can communicate with us that there's a construction issue. And our customer service team funnels those to the construction side so that we can address. But, the things that I've noticed, even as a homeowner myself, is when I have an issue and then no one calls me.
Yeah.
So we have a robust system of, hey, we will get back to you within 24 hours. We will try to rectify it within 5 business days. Sometimes in construction it's not, possible. But we really want to serve that customer, that homeowner, because it's a potential customer of ours.
Yeah, and that's a great philosophy. I've been on construction crews years ago too, and I remember those days when somebody would walk up, and you're right, they're interested. They want to talk. What are you doing? What's going on? So, I think you're right. You have to look at those things as an opportunity.
Yep.
To impact that market, even though you might be tearing stuff up and there's mud all over. It's still an opportunity to touch a customer in a positive way.
Well, yeah, and if they have a negative experience, it's just wildfire. It's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, and it's like now you had a small issue that you could have resolved. That's just
just maybe by being nice.
Yeah, yeah. And now it's a blaze, and now you're having to do damage control, and we don't want to be in that position.
All right, real quick, let me tell you a little bit about what we do here at CBM. So we're a manufacturer's rep located here in the Midwest. We work in 3 different vertical markets, utility space, we work in communications, and also commercial industrial markets. We've been in business since 1960, been an employee-owned ESOP since 1988. We really value that employee ownership in our organization, and I think it brings a lot to value our manufacturers as well. So if we can be of any service to you and help you in your next project, or if you're a manufacturer looking for expert representation, feel free to reach out to us here at CBM. That's cbmrep.com. So talking about the homeowner's perspective or the customer's perspective, what sets Gateway Fiber apart? Why should they choose you?
Why should they choose us? Great question. Well, hopefully because we are providing a better service. And we do. I mean, from a fiber perspective, we firmly believe that, fiber to the home is better than, your cable, your DSL. But with that too, we also feel like, our customer service is top of the industry.
Yeah.
When you haven't, there's a thing called Net Promoter Score, and we're historically at the very top of that, market share for that.
We talked a little bit about getting the right people on board with your company, and a little bit about the industry as a whole. Obviously the telecommunications industry is a great place to be. Workforce development has been a hot topic. Talk a little bit to the kid coming out of high school or the kid just coming out of college. What kind of opportunities are there for someone just starting into this industry, and why would they want to get into it?
Well, I think the industry is growing, and it's a great place for whether you're coming out of high school or college to get into. There's different avenues. We've been hitting up colleges, giving talks, giving career development speeches about what those opportunities are.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to think about doing an internship program as well.
Okay.
And I know a lot of other companies are already doing that, which is a fantastic way for college kids, for that matter, to dip their toe in here to see if they like it. From that high school kid, our contractors are really starved for good workers. There is a lot of the technical schools are growing exponentially now, and most of them have placement rates at like 98%. If you look at like State Technical College and whatnot, and there's it's almost like a rush to get this student. So if you're a high school kid out there and looking for, doesn't want to go to college, just wants to look at that, get into his or her career path sooner.
Yeah.
That technical school, is a great opportunity for them.
Okay. Now, what about say you've got a kid that's more business minded? Do you have to start, and work your way up through this industry, or what's somebody like that going to have to do differently?
Well, I think in all, I don't know if you have to. I think the easiest way is, there's always an entry point.
Certainly it helps to have the background and the knowledge.
Well, you have to get the background and the knowledge to have it, right? So there's got to be an entry point, and I think what you see from ISPs right now is our ability to identify those qualities in someone to give them those opportunities.
Yeah.
So there's a variety of ways to get into it.
Yeah.
I think that one of the biggest opportunities right now is probably on our vendor side, on our construction vendor side, because if you look at some of the forecasted growth rates from a fiber to the home perspective, with BEAD funding coming out pretty soon, all of us ISPs are going to be,
you're going to be bargaining for those contractors to get the work done.
Well, yeah, and there's just not enough of them. There's just not enough of them right now.
Yeah.
And so their growth right now is going to be key to our success.
Yeah. Well, and so when it comes to the BEAD funding, you mentioned that the shortage of contractors, the shortage of workers. Are we really going to be able to hit these targets when the money starts coming out and we're going to build?
Well, I can tell. Gateway Fiber will hit the targets. How about that? Whatever we get, we will hit ours. But from an overarching perspective, it is pretty aggressive.
We obviously, this industry is going to see, in the next few years, something that we've probably never seen before. So it's going to be interesting, just to see what the future brings and how we get through it.
Well, it's going to be exciting, right? Fiber to the home, fiber to the business is, that next, evolution. It kind of reminds me of, when I learned about, the highway system.
Yeah.
It just revolutionized, how we operate, how we drove or commuted from city to city, and that's what this fiber to the home is going to do, and that's what BEAD's going to do as well. You get to that rural, person that now can have high-speed internet, that can maybe work from home, that can maybe have schooling from home, and that type of opportunity, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be great for all of us. So what's one assumption that people make about your job that you would disagree with?
That's boring. How about that? It's never the same. No one day is the same. I think for me personally, if you're talking about Jason Johns at Gateway, is that how can I say it? the items that we deal with on a day-to-day basis sometimes are very granular in scale, and sometimes very, that 30,000 foot.
Sure.
So we're dealing with, what I mean by that is, we're looking at our 2024, budget, our 2024 forecast, and that is kind of this, big umbrella that we're dealing with. And at the same time, we're making phone calls to the city engineer to say, hey, do I have this permit? All of it. Everyone leans in, in at Gateway and within my organization to make sure that we're hitting our targets and our numbers. But it's a hell of a lot of fun, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is this a new position within Gateway, or did you, assume somebody else's role?
No, I think through the growth of Gateway, the VP of construction came about just because of the growth.
Okay.
Yep.
So you wouldn't have a predecessor to that maybe did something different than you. You're the
Well, I mean, they were doing it before. Okay. I think just from a title perspective, that I'm the first. But okay. I mean, they were obviously working, before. I mean,
yeah.
Was,
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds? What's the next few years look like?
Well, the next few years, my daughter just got her driver's license, so that's the immediate next few years. But for me and Gateway, it's really expansion. We're excited. I mean, we've announced our next market in Minnesota. We have a couple others that we're evaluating, and it's really just that race. It's like a 5 or 10 year race is what it's going to come down to, and we want to identify good markets with good customers and that we can support and grow. Be part of their community. I mean, that's a big thing for us. We just don't want to be an ISP. We want to be part of your community.
Part of the community.
Yep.
And that's what people want. And that's how you build those relationships and stand the test of time. You obviously you want the organization to last a long time, and that's what it's all about. But certainly exciting times. I can't thank you enough for joining us. It's been a great conversation. Appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yep, thank you. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Jason today as much as I did. I really value his perspective and his expertise in the field. I think it's awesome that we can share some of these challenges that we face, providing broadband across the country. If you need expert advice on a project or looking for representation from an expert sales force, reach out to us here at CBM at cbmrep.com. Don't forget to leave us a review and give us your comments below. Thanks again for joining us at Power the Network.